Hello, lovelies. Author Swamini here, and today I'm back with the last part of the Lanka's heritage. So, in the first two parts, we have seen Maithili and Sarvesh tell us about their past, about their ancestors, and how they are linked to the demon king Lord Ravana. So, in this last part, we are going to see how the present journey takes Sarvesh and Maithili onto a same path. So, the last part I have titled as and the time remembered his name. So here's the narration for you guys. The auditorium was packed. Scholars, journalists, students, and historians filled the rows, their whispers a low hum beneath the grandeur of the convocation ceremony. On the grand stage, a long table bore the weight of academic excellence, degrees, honors, and citations neatly arranged in a row. Sarvesh sat in the audience, tucked away in a discreet corner, his hooded jacket shielding him from unnecessary attention. His finger tapped absently on his knee as he watched Maithili ascend the stage with the same quiet confidence that had intrigued him since the day they met. Today, we honor scholars who have contributed remarkable research to history and culture, the host announced. Among them is Dr. Maithili Kelkar, whose PhD dissertation, Ravana, the Forgotten Scholar, has challenged conventional narratives and explored the depths of a misunderstood legend. Sarvesh straightened in his seat. The applause was polite but measured, as expected. Even in the academic world, speaking positively of Ravana was bound to raise eyebrows. Maithili adjusted the microphone, her face calm but resolute. I grew up hearing stories of Ravana, not as a demon, but as a protector and a scholar, she began. Yet, history only remembers his arrogance, his downfall. My research was not about justifying his actions, but about exploring the man behind the legend. The Brahmin who mastered the Vedas, the artist who played the Veena, the warrior who ruled with wisdom before his pride led to his ruin. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some nodded in approval, others whispered skeptically. Sarvesh watched as Maithili held her ground, unwavering. We study history not to glorify or vilify, she continued, but to understand, to learn. If we erase the complexity of the past, we erase the truth itself. She accepted her degree with a poised smile, her eyes scanning the crowd until they locked on Sarvesh. A silent promise passed between them. Later, as they walked along their favorite stretch of the beach, the evening waves lapping at their feet, Maithili turned to him. I meant what I said, she said. I will never reveal your identity. Sarvesh exhaled, relief washing over him like the tide. I know. She studied him. But one day, when you are ready, will you tell your own story? Sarvesh glanced at the horizon, the weight of his past no longer as suffocating as before. Maybe, he admitted, but for now, let's focus on yours. The small cafe near the beach became their unofficial meeting spot. Late night discussions, coffee stained notes, endless debates over historical accuracy. This was their new routine. Maithili's book, Ravana, the Scholar Before the Warrior, was taking shape, and Sarvesh found himself more involved than he had ever imagined. One evening, as she laid out a fresh draft, she looked up at him. I want to write about his philosophy, she said. His devotion to Lord Shiva, his intellect, not just his war with Rama, but his mind. Sarvesh nodded. Then you need something stronger than just retellings. You need evidence. Maithili frowned. But Lanka was destroyed. His records? Not all of them, Sarvesh interrupted with a smile. Some were carried away, hidden. Maithili's heart pounded. How do you know? Sarvesh hesitated. Then, for the first time, he made a choice, a real choice. Because they are in my family's possession. For weeks, Sarvesh searched through his family's old hidden records, fragile scrolls, palm leaf manuscript, ancient text written in a script barely legible now. He found forgotten hymns composed by Ravana himself, letters exchanged between Lanka's and Kashi's scholars, architectural plans for the temples he had built. One night, he led them out in front of Maithili. This, this changes everything, she whispered, her fingers trembling as she traced the edges of an ancient parchment. It authenticates your work, Sarvesh said simply. She looked up at him, emotion swelling in her eyes. You could have kept this hidden forever. He gave a small, almost sad smile. Maybe it's time I stop hiding. Months later, when the book was finally published, Maithili held the first author's copy in her hand like it was a sacred relic. She ran her fingers over the embossed title, the weight of history pressing into her palms. She found Sarvesh where she always did, on the beach, gazing at the sea as if searching for something he had lost. Wordlessly, she placed the books in his hands. He turned over, his fingers running along the name printed in gold, Dr. Maithili Kerkar. Then he opened it. On the first page was her dedication. To Sarvesh, for showing me the past and for finally embracing his own. Sarvesh closed the book, looking at her, a rare smile breaking across his face. For the first time in my life, he said softly, I don't feel ashamed of my lineage. Maithili held his gaze. You never should have. The weight of generations was lifting, and for the first time, Ravana's descendant was free. As the waves continued their endless dance, Sarvesh and Maithili sat side by side, bound not by history's judgment, but by the truth they had reclaimed together. And somewhere in the unseen fabric of time, a forgotten king finally found peace. So, lovelies, this is the third part of Lanka's heritage and the end of this short story. I hope you like this part as much as you loved and appreciated part 1 and part 2. For more such stories, stay tuned to TLB Universe and I will come back with more narrations for all you guys. Thank you.